I just can't do it. I can't take on that responsibility.
But Emily just started her job this year. Taking in a stepbrother with no blood relation and raising him would be too cruel.
My brother Jake and I became siblings through our parents' remarriage with children. Suddenly, our parents passed away, and the relatives were discussing the future of Jake, who is still in middle school. I looked at Jake with concern, but he kept looking out the window, never trying to meet my eyes. It seemed he had closed off his heart again, even though we had finally become a family. But the relatives continued their discussion, unconcerned with Jake's feelings.
It's sad, but maybe there's no choice but to put him in an orphanage.
Everyone fell silent. No one voiced an objection. The orphanage, how could they? As I was shocked, Jake said as he stared out the window,
I'll go to the orphanage.
Hearing Jake's emotionless voice, I stood up abruptly. There's no need for the orphanage. I will take care of him. All the relatives looked at me in surprise. Jake turned around, his eyes wide open. I looked straight at Jake and said, Jake, we're family, right? I am your big sister, aren't I? Tears streamed down Jake's face one after another.
Big sis, thank you.
I hugged the sobbing Jake tightly and kept rubbing his back. The next morning, I woke up to the sunlight streaming through the gap in the curtains. The clock was pointing at 9 a.m. Oh, I need to make breakfast for Jake. I jumped up and headed to the living room. Good morning, Jake. Where's Jake? Hey. Jake was nowhere to be found, not in the living room, the bathroom, or his room. I had a bad feeling. Don't tell me Jake left the house because of what the relatives said. My mind went blank. My name is Emily.
Mom, what are you doing?
While I was thoroughly vacuuming behind the TV stand, my daughter looked at me curiously. I'm cleaning up because Uncle Jake is bringing over some very important guests. I wouldn't go this far for just any friend, but the visitor this time is really important. Ever since I heard from my brother Jake, I've been feeling restless and uneasy.
Is this Mom?
Before I knew it, my daughter had opened an album that was in the guest room. I had found it earlier while tidying up the closet during the good weather. I had taken it out to look at it later, but had completely forgotten about it. When my daughter pointed to the photo, it showed me in my school uniform and a curly-haired, nervous-looking Jake. Yes, that's me when I was in high school, and this is Uncle Jake.
Uncle Jake was so little.
Yes, he was. There's a 9-year age difference between Uncle Jake and me. I was 18 and he was only 9 at the time. We had just met, so neither of us is smiling.
Just met?
Yes. Indeed, Jake and I are not blood-related siblings. I was in my senior year of high school when my mother, Sarah, and Jake's father, Bob, got remarried, making us a family. The man who used to be my father was someone who didn't care for his family. He would come home late every night, and he was hardly ever home on weekends. And when he was home, he would make my mother do all the work. I never had any problems with him myself. It seemed like he had no interest in me at all. But when he was at home, the air was tense, and honestly, I remember having a hard time dealing with him. Hey, Mom, is it like this with all dads?
Well, maybe.
When I was little, I thought all fathers were like this, but as I grew up, I realized our family was unusual. My friends practiced marathons with their fathers, cook with their fathers on their mothers' birthdays. Their stories were full of fun episodes with their fathers as part of the family. I also realized that my mom really wanted to escape this uncomfortable life, but endured it for my sake. Indeed, it must have been tough living on just my mom's salary as the temp worker. I wanted her to prioritize her feelings, but after all, I was just a kid. The most I could do was help around the house, and I spent my days feeling guilty and frustrated. However, just before I started middle school, my mom finally decided to divorce. I don't know what triggered it. When Mom talked to me about divorce, I remember feeling a deep relief. Now Mom can finally relax at home. My dad, who had no interest in us, agreed to the divorce readily. He left without fighting for custody. Thus, the divorce was easily settled between them alone.
But Emily is going to need more money. It's not like he cheated or anything. You could have endured a bit longer.
But my grandma on my mom's side tried to dissuade her from divorce until the end.
Emily won't suffer. I can raise her well all by myself.
With your temp job, that's impossible, you know.
That's not true. I'd do anything for her.
If you won't listen to my advice, then just do as you please. But don't ever come asking for help. Take responsibility for your own choices.
Just do as you please. That's a bit harsh. I couldn't understand why my usually kind grandma was being so strict with my mom this time, and I felt annoyed. But my mom stood firm even against my grandma.
I understand. I will take responsibility and raise Emily myself.
Though it pained me to see my mom estranged from her own mother after choosing divorce, my mom was strong. After becoming a family of just the two of us, my mom kept her distance from my grandma and other relatives, working tirelessly to raise me. Mom would come home from her day job as a temp worker, make dinner, and then hurriedly leave for her night job.
Is school fun? You don't have to hold back, Emily.
Mom always gave me as much allowance as my peers got. Mom, don't overdo it. As a middle schooler, I was honestly lonely spending nights alone and worried about my overworking mom, but all I could say was that
I'm not overdoing it. Your future is limitless. I feel very fulfilled right now.
I wish I could make life easier for my always kind and smiling mom soon. I decided to go to a vocational high school and get a job right after graduation. But someone appeared who would ease my mom's burden before I could, and cared deeply for her. That was Bob.
Sarah's kindness, earnestness, and strength deeply attracted me, and I wanted to be part of the family. Emily might not need a father, but I'd like to become family with Emily.
Bob was someone who could express his feelings directly with a kind smile. When they went shopping, he carried the shopping basket for my mom and never let her carry heavy bags. He would hold the door until my mom and I had passed through. Naturally, I liked Bob. Most importantly, my mom looked so relaxed and happy when she was with Bob, so I was all for their marriage. Thus, when I was in my senior year of high school, my mom and Bob got remarried. My once quiet home life became lively and peaceful. At last, I've got a normal family. I was excited, but there was one thing that worried me. It was Bob's son from his first marriage, Jake, a third grader. Jake, will you go shopping for snacks with me?
No, it's okay.
Even after living with us for a month, Jake wouldn't make eye contact with me or my mom and kept to himself. Knowing from Bob that Jake wasn't treated well by his biological mother, we tried everything to get him to open up to us.
Jake, what would you like for dinner tonight?
Anything's fine.
Come on, you can pick what we watch on TV.
Whatever.
Despite his curt replies, we kept patiently talking to him. We wanted him to feel the warmth of family and share the happiness I was feeling. However, there was little progress, and before we knew it, 3 months had passed since the remarriage. Got any plans for this Saturday? Expecting him to refuse as usual, I tried to invite Jake to the library when, after a moment of silence, he hesitantly asked me and my mom,
Can I have some friends over on Saturday?
My mom and I exchanged looks of surprise and joy.
Of course, that's fine. How many?
4.
That'll be lively. Let me join in if you play cards.
We're not going to play cards, I think.
Jake's troubled expression looked so endearing.
What kind of snacks would you like?
You don't need to worry about that.
Shyly, Jake blushed and quickly went to his room. Jake made an effort to talk in his own way. Feeling the distance between us narrowing, we were filled with joy. Then on Saturday, 4 rambunctious boys came to our house. I bet Jake has a blast with these 4 at school. Seeing Jake's friends made me feel relieved. When my mom brought in her homemade cheesecake, a favorite of Jake's, cheers erupted.
I've never seen Jake smile like that before.
My mom looked very satisfied. That evening, Jake said during dinner,
Thanks for today. It was my first time inviting friends over. They were all amazed at how delicious the cheesecake was. Everyone told me how kind and good a cook your mother was.
Your friends sound like good kids. Tell them they're welcome anytime.
Really?
Of course.
And then,
Jake looked at me.
my friends were envious
What?
of having a beautiful sister. We didn't have time today, but maybe we can play cards next time.
Hearing Jake's words, my happiness overflowed. Sure, just so you know, I won't lose even to elementary school kids. Seeing Jake's shy smile brought me even more joy. Jake took a deep breath with a slight hesitation.
Mom, sis, thank you for everything.
He finally called us mom and sis. Hearing his words, my mom and I teared up. Jake looked straight at us. We're going to be all right now. I felt truly at peace. From that day on, Jake really opened up to us, and we became a true family. Going shopping together as a family of 4, enjoying delicious meals. Doing things together as a family was something I had always longed for. Thanks to Bob stepping in as my father, my mom no longer needed to work 2 jobs, and I didn't have to find work right after high school either.
Don't worry about money. Just think about your future.
I decided to go to community college to pursue my interest in design. I believed the divorce was the right decision, and I wasn't unhappy living with just my mom, but now as a family of 4, I couldn't help but wish every night for this happiness to last. I thought if I wished every night, it would continue forever. But 3 years after the remarriage, a tragedy struck Jake and me. Our parents died in a car accident. I was just 21, having started my first job, and Jake was only 12. The suddenness of it left me in shock. and I have little memory of the days leading up to the funeral. All I could think about was protecting Jake, even more than my own grief. At the funeral, about 10 relatives of Bob, whom I was meeting for the first time, attended.
They are so young, it's heartbreaking.
They looked at Jake and me with pity. At the same time, they were whispering among themselves about what would happen to Jake. Initially, they acted normally around Jake and me, but as discussions dragged on, their frustration became apparent.
We can't take on that responsibility. It's just too much.
But Emily just started her job this year. Taking in a stepbrother with no blood relation and raising him would be too cruel.
Their conversation about Jake's future was loud enough for us to hear. I looked at Jake worriedly, but he just kept looking out the window, never trying to meet my eyes. Even though we had finally become a family, it seemed he was shutting himself off again. Nevertheless, the relatives' discussion continued, regardless of Jake's feelings.
It's sad, but maybe there's no choice but to put him in an orphanage.
Everyone fell silent. No one objected. An orphanage, how could they? As I was shocked, Jake said as he stared out the window,
I'll go to the orphanage.
Hearing his emotionless voice, I stood up abruptly. There's no need for the orphanage. I'll take care of him. The relatives all looked at us in surprise. Jake also turned around, his eyes wide. I looked straight at him and said, Jake, we're family, right? I'm your big sister, aren't I?
I know, but...
He looked bewildered, and I moved closer to align our gazes. I was really happy when you called me sis. Whether we're blood related or not doesn't matter. We know that better than anyone. We are a real family, aren't we? Tears streamed down Jake's face.
Sis, thank you.
I hugged him tightly, crying, and spoke in my heart to our departed parents. Dad, Mom, I'm really scared, but I'll protect Jake no matter what. He's my precious family, so please keep watching over us. I kept rubbing his back until he calmed down. When we got home that night, Jake quickly fell asleep, seemingly exhausted. The house felt eerily quiet without our parents, and loneliness washed over me. I had been strong in front of Jake, but alone. I felt crushed by anxiety about the future. Can I really raise Jake, who's just started middle school, into a proper adult? Have I just burdened him with financial struggles by taking him in? The more I thought, the more overwhelmed I felt, and I crawled into bed, squeezing my eyes shut. The next morning, sunlight peeking through the curtains woke me up. The clock was pointing at 9 a.m. Oh, I need to make breakfast for Jake. I jumped up and rushed to the living room. Good morning, Jake. Where's Jake? Hey. Jake was nowhere to be found, not in the living room, the bathroom, or his room. A bad feeling crept in. Don't tell me Jake left the house because of what the relatives said. My mind went blank. As I rushed outside in my pajamas, I faintly heard Jake's voice from the front door. Jake. I flung the door open to find Jake and my grandma facing each other. Grandma, what's going on? It had been 12 years since I last made proper eye contact with Grandma. Ever since Mom pushed through with a divorce against her wishes, we hadn't been in touch, and at the funeral yesterday, we only spoke briefly and formally. I guess Grandma, having never reconciled with Mom, regretted it. During the funeral, she was constantly in a corner, staring at Mom's portrait. Her back looked so pitiful that I couldn't bring myself to speak to her.
Emily, I'm sorry. I was being stubborn. I should have acknowledged sooner that Sarah raised you alone all these years, and that you became a happy family of 4 after she remarried.
My grandma looked regretful.
Yesterday, seeing you protect Jake reminded me so much of Sarah 9 years ago. Back then, I couldn't reach out to her. So I came here hoping to help this time.
Grandma. Her gaze, still kind and strong, resembled my late mom's, bringing me a sense of comfort.
Come and live with me. The 3 of us can live together.
Grandma offered. Actually, I had been thinking of moving since I was living in a large family-sized rental apartment. According to Grandma, her house was owned outright, so there would be no rent to pay. Also, since she wasn't working, she could take care of Jake. For me, just starting in the workforce and working overtime, this was a very welcome offer. However, Grandma's house was about 20 miles away. I could commute by train from Grandma's place, but Jake would have to change schools. Jake, you just got used to middle school. Aren't you against moving? He just made some close friends and started walking home with them. I tentatively looked at Jake, but he seemed unfazed.
I want to live at Grandma's house.
When Grandma smiled and nodded at Jake, he smiled back broadly. Thank you, Grandma. Really, thank you. So, we moved to Grandma's house and started our new life as 3. Living with Grandma was the right decision.
Emily, Jake, breakfast is ready.
In the morning, Grandma prepared waffles with fruit and mac and cheese.
You need to eat a good breakfast to have energy.
Hearing Grandma say the same things in the same tone as Mom made us feel nostalgic. Moreover, Grandma's mac and cheese tasted just like Mom's, which surprised us so much we looked at each other.
Isn't it too bland?
Worried, Grandma looked at us, but we vigorously shook our heads. We were just surprised it tasted just like Mom's mac and cheese.
Really?
Grandma smiled happily, probably recalling how Mom used to prepare breakfast every morning since she was little. And now, Mom's taste had been passed down to us. Feeling Mom's presence in such an unexpected way warmed our hearts.
I'm always at home and have plenty of time, so I'll take care of the house. Emily, focus on your work, and Jake, do your best in school.
Thanks to Grandma, I could concentrate on my job. And with Grandma at home, I was relieved that Jake wouldn't be alone. Jake made friends quickly at his new school and joined the tennis club. Every day, he brought home dirty brown socks, but Grandma never frowned and always turned them back to white, making us deeply grateful. Seeing Jake leave the house happily every morning made me feel his future was limitless, motivating me even more at work. I had never heard about Jake's dream for the future, but given his good grades, he'd likely aim for college along with his peers. Our parents' inheritance wasn't substantial, so I decided to increase my income to ensure Jake could choose his future path freely. Hey, Grandma, I was raised well by Mom. I never felt miserable. Now it's my turn to raise Jake properly. So I'm thinking of taking up a side job to save money. Grandma listened silently until I finished. Then she said,
I won't say anything. I support whatever you do, Emily, but don't overdo it. You're all the family Jake has.
Nodding firmly at Grandma's reminder. Yes, I am Jake's only family. I won't let him feel sad again. I decided to work part-time at a sports gym from 7 to 10 p.m. 3 times a week, alongside my main job.
Sis, you came home late again today.
Jake, you're still up. How was school today?
Yo,
Have fun tomorrow too. And good luck with the junior varsity matches coming up.
thanks. Don't overdo it, sis.
Imagining Jake's boundless future made the extra work seem easy. Maybe Mom felt this way too. I was better off than Mom after all, because Grandma was at home doing the housework and looking after Jake. I bet Mom was worried about leaving middle school me alone at home, coming back tired to do the housework, and waking up earlier than me to make breakfast. I truly realized how great my mom was. Though busy at work and spending less time talking with Jake, I attended his sports day and team matches whenever possible, cheering louder than anyone.
Sis, it's embarrassing.
Yet Jake would wave back, surrounded by his friends. Seeing him happy and enjoying life made me work even harder. Time flew, and Jake became a second year of middle school. One day, I got a call from his school during my lunch break. The caller was Jake's homeroom teacher. Is something wrong with Jake? Hearing the teacher's words, I felt despair. I wanted to go home early to talk to Jake, but ironically, I had my gym shift that day. I'm so unlucky. For the first time, I wished I could fall ill, but of course, that didn't happen, and I worked restlessly until 10 p.m. before rushing home. I'm back. Is Jake asleep? Grandma, who had been dozing off waiting for me, was surprised to see me enter the living room energetically.
He's asleep. You taught him it's better to be an early bird than a night owl, right?
Grandma laughed, but I couldn't. Today, I got a call from Jake's teacher. He's been missing school about half of the week. He leaves in the afternoon when he does go.
Jake has.
I was on the verge of tears. Maybe I can't replace a parent after all. Am I making him feel miserable with too little allowance? Can't he talk to me about his problems? Grandma quietly sat me down and reheated my dinner.
Jake really sees you as his big sister, Emily.
Then why? Why won't he talk to me about anything?
Jake feels guilty about you working all the time.
What? As Grandma served dinner, she slowly started to describe Jake's daily behavior. He was always worried about me working late. He wanted to stay awake until I returned, but didn't want to worry me, so he went to bed early. However, he couldn't sleep until he heard the front door.
Maybe he finally fell asleep peacefully just now.
Hearing Grandma's words, my heart ached. She told me Jake had asked her several times if it was okay for him, not her real brother, to cause me so much trouble. Should I be here? We're family, of course, you should. I blurted out.
Yes, I told him that too. But Jake wants to talk to you. Feelings don't get conveyed by thoughts alone. Haven't you experienced that yourself?
Grandma pointed out, making me realize. Seeing my reaction, Grandma smiled and stood up.
Jake helped make this potato salad. It's very yummy. Good night.
Grandma then went to her bedroom. I covered my face with my hands. Jake was just like I used to be. When Mom worked tirelessly day and night, I was worried but felt useless for not being able to do anything. I thought Jake was in good hands with Grandma watching over him. But perhaps only I felt reassured, while Jake harbored various complex feelings alone in the house. And for Jake, Grandma was someone he met for the first time at our parents' funeral. The introverted him must have agreed to live with Grandma and move schools just for me. To lessen my burdens, I realized I hadn't understood Jake at all. Glancing at the potato salad on the plate, I took a bite. Delicious. I need to tell Jake directly. I remembered eating alone back then, unable to tell my mom the meal was good, and crying. Just living together doesn't make us a real family. Tomorrow, I'll talk to Jake, I decided. The next day was Saturday. Jake, can we talk? I took Jake out. We rode the train to the neighborhood where our family of 4 once lived.
Do you have something to do here?
Jake looked at me curiously as I responded vaguely and entered the park we used to play in. It's empty, just like Saturdays used to be. I sat on a swing, and Jake sat on the one next to me.
This place was always empty because it didn't have many play sets.
Right? We could play catch as much as we wanted. I never played catch before because I was an only child and a girl. So I learned to play catch from you, Jake. We reminisced about the happy times as a family of 4. Jake, the potato salad were delicious. Thank you, and sorry for worrying you. I apologized for being completely oblivious to Jake's feelings. But I really think of you as my true brother. I expressed how excited I was about his future, my desire to support him on whatever path he chooses, and how work wasn't a burden at all.
But I've been worried that you might be pushing yourself too hard for me. I'd rather not go to college than make you suffer.
Jake looked straight at me. I felt the same way about Mom when she worked so hard for me. I remembered how I felt when I was Jake's age. But now I understand how Mom felt. Doing something for someone you care about isn't hard at all. In fact, working for a future where Jake has endless possibilities gives me a great sense of purpose. Jake's eyes were moist. No crying, come on, stand up. I got off the swing and beckoned to Jake.
What? Whoa.
When I threw the ball at him unexpectedly, he caught it perfectly. After staring at the ball for a while, Jake gruffly wiped away his tears and said,
Thanks, sis. Can I say one more thing about how I feel?
Yeah.
I want to talk more with you, sis. I'm really happy that you think about my future. But like when we lived as a family of 4, I want to talk more with you.
Jake confessed with a flushed face, making him endearing to me. I get it. Just wait a bit. I will think about my work schedule. Jake nodded with a smile. Come to think of it, I haven't seen Jake's carefree smile in a while. Jake had grown taller than me and could now throw the ball with just the right force for me to catch. Money is important, but I realized there were things more important than that. Then I quit my gym job right away. Instead, I enrolled in night and weekend classes to become a web designer. After learning the ropes and finding my path, I quit my main job a year later. Then I got a new start as a web designer from home. Initially, I dipped into my savings to get by, but having been interested in design and with my experience from community college, I started earning enough in 6 months. Welcome back. Did you enjoy school?
Yo, there's a final tennis match coming up, so come and cheer for me.
Got it. I'll practice cheering.
No, just a normal volume, please.
Being able to work from home allowed me to say welcome back to Jake every day and have mundane conversations at dinner, watching TV together, finally leading to a peaceful and happy life. Jake continued to play tennis in high school and excelled in sports and academics.
Sis, can we talk?
The day before his senior year parent-teacher meeting, Jake approached me, looking a bit nervous.
I've been thinking. I want to become an elementary school teacher.
I was surprised because despite our daily talks, I had never heard Jake's dream for the future. An elementary school teacher? That's unexpected. I thought he would pursue astronomy since he liked it.
I want to be like you, sis. Someone who can protect children's futures.
Jake's direct gaze made me feel embarrassed. I haven't done anything grand, though.
No, it's because of someone like you, not blood related, but who cares about me deeply, that I've come this far. I want to be a teacher who can understand kids in complicated situations like mine.
Realizing Jake had felt this way, my heart swelled. Working for the limitless futures of children is quite rewarding. I bet Jake will feel the same for his students one day. I pledge to support whatever path the now robust Jake chose. Later, as he vowed, Jake became an elementary school teacher. He seemed to face many challenges, but seeing him mature into a teacher with each visit made me incredibly proud. Sadly, Grandma passed away soon after Jake started working, but she lovingly watched over us until the end. If Grandma hadn't come to our house the day after our parents' funeral, our lives would have been entirely different. I want to be someone who can provide the same sense of security as Grandma. I'm sure she's now reconciled with Mom in heaven, watching over us with our parents. As for me, I got married to my boyfriend of 3 years when Jake moved out for his job. We renovated Grandma's house, filled with memories, and now live happily with my new family.
My room will always be mine, you know.
Jake, who still keeps his comic books in his old room, visits about once a month. I'm genuinely glad. He really considers me his true family. He frequently cleans Grandma's grave and helps entertain my daughter. Most of all, seeing Jake's face brings me peace.
Mom, hey, Mom.
My daughter peering into my face brought me back to the moment. What?
Who is this?
My daughter pointed at the photo taken when Jake left this house. The only one we had of the 3 of us together. In it, Jake had his arm around Grandma, who was smiling broadly. This is my grandma. This house actually belonged to her. Grandma, me, and Uncle Jake lived here together for 10 years.
Wow, everyone looks so happy. What a lovely family.
My daughter's casual remark touched my heart. Blood relation doesn't matter. Family is about caring for each other, sharing happiness, and living together. I felt this anew. Next week, Uncle Jake is bringing someone he wants to be his family. So, I'm going to start cleaning again. Will you help me?
Sure.
Yes, next week, Jake is bringing his fiancée to our house. I'm sure he'll create a wonderful family. I continue to wish for my brother's happiness always and forever. Grandma, next week will be exciting. I spoke to Grandma's portrait and felt as if she smiled back.